At night, a naval destroyer doesn't look loud. It looks calm. Flat water, dark horizon, just a thin silhouette cutting through the ocean. But under that steel deck is a weapons grid designed to fight entire wars at once. This isn't a ship that waits to be told what to do. It sees first. It decides fast. It can swat missiles out of the sky, hunt submarines you'll never see, and reach hundreds of miles inland without ever showing itself. Every radar sweep, every sealed hatch, every system on board exists for one reason: to end fights before the enemy even realizes they've started. Destroyers don't get the headlines, carriers do, submarines get the mystique. But when things turn violent, these ships are usually the first ones in range, and the last ones still standing. They protect fleets, shield coastlines, and carry enough firepower to rewrite a battle in minutes. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel. This video breaks down the most powerful and deadliest weapons on naval destroyers right now and why these ships quietly control modern naval warfare. A modern naval destroyer doesn't fight with muscle first, it fights with awareness. Long before a missile is fired or a gun is raised, the ship is already building a picture of the battlefield that stretches hundreds of miles in every direction. Radar sweeps the sky. Sonar listens through layers of water. Data pours in from satellites, aircraft, and nearby ships. All of it converges inside the Combat Information Center, where the destroyer's real power lives. This is where systems like Aegis come in, not as a single radar or computer, but as a decision engine. The ship doesn't just detect targets, it tracks hundreds of them at once, predicts their paths, and ranks which ones matter most. A hostile aircraft climbing fast, a missile skimming low, a contact underwater moving just a little too deliberately, the system filters chaos into priorities. On newer destroyers, especially Flight 3 variants, the SPY-6 radar changes the scale of this entirely. It can see smaller objects at longer ranges and hold on to those tracks even in heavy electronic clutter. That matters because modern naval combat isn't clean. Enemies jam. They decoy. They hide behind civilian traffic and weather. The ship still has to decide correctly, fast, and without hesitation. What makes this deadly is integration. The destroyer doesn't think alone. It can pass targeting data to another ship, guide a missile it didn't launch, or fire at a threat spotted by someone else. One radar, one brain, many shooters. That means even a single destroyer is never really alone. And once the ship sees you clearly enough, the question stops being if it can respond. It becomes how many different ways it can end the threat, because once the brain has a target, it reaches straight down into the ship's hidden arsenal. Beneath the deck of a destroyer is something most people never see. Rows of sealed hatches, no barrels, no visible guns, just flat panels hiding vertical launch cells that turn the ship into a floating missile magazine. This is the Mk-41 vertical launch system, and it's one of the most important inventions in modern naval warfare. Each cell is like a locked chamber that can hold different types of weapons depending on the mission. One cell might contain a long-range air defense missile. Another might house a land attack cruise missile. Another could be loaded for anti-submarine warfare. From the outside, they all look the same. From the inside, they give commanders options. That flexibility is what makes destroyers dangerous. They don't sail out as one thing. They can be configured to defend a carrier group, strike deep inland, hunt submarines, or do all three at once. And because the missiles launch vertically, the ship doesn't need to turn toward the target. It can fire in any direction almost instantly. The speed matters. From detection to launch can be seconds. A hatch opens. The missile ignites. It clears the ship before most people on deck even feel the vibration. Multiply that by dozens of cells, and you're looking at a ship that can respond to multiple threats at once without reloading or repositioning. This also changes psychology. An enemy never knows exactly what's in those cells. They can't tell if the destroyer nearby is configured for defense or offense. That uncertainty alone forces caution. But when the threat comes from the sky, the destroyer's first instinct isn't to attack land or sea targets, it's to build a shield. And that shield reaches farther than most aircraft can fly. If a destroyer had to rely on close-range guns, it would already be too late. Modern naval combat gives very, very little margin for error, which is why the ship's most important weapons are the ones designed to never let threats get close. This is where the standard missile family comes in. These are the long arm of the destroyer's defense, built to intercept aircraft, cruise missiles, and even ballistic threats long before they reach the fleet. The SM-2 handles traditional air defense. The SM-3 focuses on ballistic missile interception in space. But the most flexible and intimidating is the SM-6. The SM-6 isn't just a defensive missile, it's a multi-role weapon. It can intercept aircraft at extreme ranges, hunt cruise missiles flying just above the waves, and even strike ships on the surface. That last part matters because it blurs the line between offense and defense. A missile launched to protect the ship can also be used to remove a threat permanently. What makes this system effective is layering. If a threat slips past one intercept window, it enters another, then another. Each layer is designed to force the incoming missile to maneuver, slow down, or reveal itself. By the time it gets close, it's already exhausted and easier to kill. This isn't about one perfect shot. It's about probability, overlapping systems, redundancy, making sure that even a sophisticated attack has to beat multiple defenses in sequence. For the crew, this creates confidence. For the enemy, it creates doubt. And doubt is often enough to stop an attack before it begins, but defense is only half the story, because these ships can also reach out and strike far beyond the horizon. When people think of Tomahawk missiles, they usually picture land strikes, fixed targets, coordinates loaded hours before launch. But the role of Tomahawk is changing, and destroyers are at the center of that shift. Modern Tomahawks can be retargeted in flight. They can receive updates from aircraft, satellites, or other ships. That turns them from fire and forget weapons into adaptable tools. And now, with the push toward maritime strike variants, destroyers are regaining the ability to threaten enemy ships at long range. That matters because naval warfare is about space. Control the water, and you control supply lines, movement, and escalation. A destroyer armed with long-range strike missiles forces enemy fleets to spread out, stay farther away, or invest heavily in defense. Tomahawks also give destroyers strategic reach. These ships can sit hundreds of miles offshore and still hit high-value targets inland. No airspace permission, no runways, just a sealed hatch opening quietly at sea. This turns destroyers into political tools as much as military ones. Their presence alone sends a message. Their weapons make that message credible. And unlike aircraft, missiles don't get tired. They don't need refueling. Once launched, they commit fully. But not every enemy stays on the surface or in the air. Some threats prefer silence. Submarines don't announce themselves. They don't show up on radar screens or parade their firepower. They wait. And that makes them one of the most dangerous threats a destroyer faces. To counter that, destroyers are built as hunters. Hull-mounted sonar listens forward. Towed arrays trail behind the ship, stretching deep into the water to catch faint noises. Changes in propeller rhythm, cavitation, a contact moving against the natural flow of the sea. But detection is only the first step. Once a submarine is suspected, the destroyer can bring in helicopters equipped with dipping sonar and torpedoes. It can launch anti-submarine rockets that fly through the air and drop weapons into the water miles away. This keeps the ship itself out of immediate danger while still applying pressure. Anti-submarine warfare is slow and tense. There are no explosions until the very end, just hours of tracking, narrowing down possibilities, and forcing the enemy to make a mistake. What makes destroyers effective here is persistence. They can stay on station. They can coordinate with aircraft and other ships. They can deny entire areas of ocean to hostile submarines. And in modern warfare, denying space can be just as powerful as destroying targets. Because sometimes, instead of firing a missile, the smartest move is making the enemy's missile miss entirely. If you're enjoying this breakdown, subscribe now. These videos take serious research and most viewers never hit the button. Subscribing helps me go deeper into the weapons and systems most people never fully understand. Not every kill requires an explosion. Sometimes the cleanest victory is convincing the enemy's weapon that the destroyer was never there in the first place. Modern destroyers carry electronic warfare systems designed to attack the missile's brain rather than its body. Incoming threats rely on radar, infrared signatures, or a mix of both to find their target. The destroyer's job is to confuse that guidance long enough for the missile to lose confidence, waste energy, or chase the wrong thing. Systems like CWIP don't just jam blindly. They listen first. They analyze the frequency, pulse pattern, and behavior of the threat's radar. Then they respond with tailored interference designed to overwhelm or distort the missile's perception of reality. To the weapon, the destroyer may suddenly appear larger, farther away, or split into multiple false targets. Decoys add another layer. Nulka, for example, launches off the ship and actively emits signals that mimic the destroyer's radar signature. The incoming missile locks onto the decoy instead, steering itself away from the ship and toward empty ocean. By the time it realizes the mistake, it's usually too late to correct. This matters because missiles are expensive, fast, and unforgiving. Soft kill techniques give the ship more time and more options. They also force adversaries to fire more weapons to achieve the same effect, draining magazines and increasing logistical strain. In naval warfare, survival isn't always about brute force. Sometimes it's about deception, timing, and making the enemy doubt what their own sensors are telling them. But when deception isn't enough, destroyers now have a new kind of weapon that doesn't fire bullets or missiles at all. The newest weapons on destroyers don't explode, they burn, and they do it at the speed of light. Directed energy systems like Helios and Odin represent a shift in how navies think about defense. Instead of intercepting every small drone or boat with a missile that costs millions, destroyers can now use focused energy to blind sensors, disable electronics, or physically damage targets at close range. The advantage here isn't raw power, it's economics. Lasers don't run out of ammunition in the traditional sense. As long as the ship has power, it can keep firing. That makes them ideal for countering drones, which are cheap, numerous, and increasingly common in modern conflicts. Lasers also react instantly. There's no flight time, no lead calculation. The beam goes where it's aimed immediately. Against slow or medium speed threats, that responsiveness can be decisive. These systems aren't replacing missiles, they're complementing them. Lasers handle the low end of the threat spectrum, so high-value interceptors can be saved for the targets that really matter. What's important is what this signals. Destroyers are no longer limited by the number of weapons they can physically store. Electrical power becomes part of the arsenal, and newer ships are being designed with that in mind, generating far more energy than earlier classes. But a destroyer's deadliest trait still isn't any single weapon. It's how it fights as part of something much larger. A destroyer doesn't fight alone anymore. In modern naval combat, it fights as a node in a network. Sensors from one platform can guide weapons from another. A destroyer might fire a missile at a target it never detected itself, relying instead on data from an aircraft, satellite, or another ship hundreds of miles away. This turns the fleet into a distributed weapons system rather than a collection of individual hulls. This concept is what makes cooperative engagement so powerful. If one radar sees clearly, everyone benefits. If one shooter has the best angle, it takes the shot. The enemy can't simply blind or overwhelm a single ship and expect the system to collapse. For destroyers, this multiplies lethality. A ship with limited missile inventory suddenly gains access to the sensing power of an entire strike group. Engagement ranges stretch, reaction times shrink. It also complicates enemy planning. An adversary can't tell which ship will fire, which sensor is guiding the weapon, or how many platforms are involved. That uncertainty forces conservative behavior and slows decision-making. In combat, speed matters. Networks make destroyers faster, smarter, and far more dangerous than their tonnage alone would suggest. And that network is about to get even more lethal with the next generation of weapons. The future of destroyer firepower is defined by speed and unpredictability. Hypersonic weapons, traveling at several times the speed of sound, compress reaction windows to seconds. They maneuver, they descend steeply, and they are extremely difficult to intercept. While not every destroyer will carry these weapons immediately, the direction is clear. Surface combatants are being adapted to support larger missiles and more demanding launch requirements. Ships like the Zumwalt class are already being positioned as testbeds for this shift. What makes hypersonics dangerous isn't just velocity, it's the combination of speed, range, and flexible targeting. Defenders have less time to detect, track, decide, and respond. Mistakes become fatal. For destroyers, this means a return to high-end naval strike roles once thought to belong only to aircraft or submarines. A surface ship could hold major targets at risk from unexpected angles without warning. This escalation changes naval balance. Fleets have to spread out, defenses have to thicken, and the margin for error narrows dramatically. But even with all this technology, the real weapon is still the people who operate it. Destroyers rarely steal the spotlight. They don't launch air wings or vanish beneath the sea. But when combat starts, they are often the ships doing the most work. They screen carriers. They defend amphibious forces. They escort supply ships. They absorb the first wave of attacks and respond with speed and precision. Their weapons are layered, flexible, and constantly evolving. What makes them deadly is balance. Enough sensors to see first. Enough weapons to respond immediately. Enough endurance to stay in the fight when others rotate out. A single destroyer can defend an entire formation, strike land targets, hunt submarines, counter drones, and integrate seamlessly into a wider network. Few platforms can claim that range of capability at once. This is why navies invest so heavily in them, not because they are glamorous, but because they are reliable, adaptable, and unforgiving to opponents who underestimate them. In the dark, on open water, a destroyer doesn't need attention to be powerful. Its weapons speak clearly enough on their own. Naval destroyers don't dominate through size or spectacle. They dominate through precision, layers, and relentless adaptation. Quiet ships, overwhelming reach. If this breakdown changed how you see modern naval warfare, subscribe for more stories about the weapons shaping tomorrow's battles before they're ever fought.